My top 10 fantasy and sci-fi series of all time. Now, reading is fairly subjective, so you may not agree with my list at all, but do let me know in the comments if we have some similar reading tastes. Now, a little bit of background about me. I am a software engineer, I'm a gamer, I really enjoy exercising and calisthenics. I even trained Kung Fu in China for 6 months. Now, I'm saying all this just so that you can understand kind of like who I am as a person, so that you can understand, like, would you like the recommendations that I will be giving you on this channel going forward? Coming in at number 10, we have Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson. This is set 300 years after the events of Era 1. The world is very much in the industrial age at this point. We have guns, we have cars. Allomancy has changed. It is a lot different to the way we've got Twinborns, we've got people with ferrochemical and allomancy powers kind of like mingled together, and I really think that that's what makes this series shine, is the combining of these two different kind of magic systems and the way that it's changed and the way that it develops. The events of Era 1 have turned into like myth and legend in this series, and it makes for a very, very interesting dynamic. While not as epic in scale as Era 1, Era 2 is incredible by itself, and the ending to it is absolutely incredible. It's definitely one to check out. At number 9, we have The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill. This series is criminally underrated in my opinion. It's got some amazing magics, bonded dragons, and all the sorts of things that you would love in like an epic fantasy series. The way that Ryan Cahill shines is his character work. The characters in The Bound and the Broken easily some of my favourite characters of all time. He writes them so incredibly well, and it's just so emotional, the way that these stories interweave and these characters interact, and it's just really, really well done. This series isn't truly original, however. This takes like Shardplate and Shardblade from Stormlight, the magic from the Wheel of Time, the kind of like quest-like element from Lord of the Rings and like elves and dwarves, and it combines it all into this book. But in my opinion, that's what makes this incredible. The Bound of the Broken just takes things from other places and it combines them all into one really interesting world and makes it its own thing, and it's just such a good series. Fair warning, this series isn't finished yet. We have one novella coming later this year, and then I believe the final book is coming out in 2027, but it's definitely not one to miss. At number 8, we have Cradle by Will Wight. This story follows Weishi Linden and his journey. He starts off in the valley where he was born, one of the weakest people in his entire valley, and the whole journey is him going from basically having almost no power to the end of the series to having almost godlike power. Him, Yaren, Athan, all of the characters that you meet throughout this journey, they're so well written. This story is also incredible on Audible. Travis Baldry narrates it, and it was so fun. I think I binged the entire thing in under 2 months. It's 12 books long with a 13th stories of at the end, which I definitely think is worth reading. Magic system is kind of unique. It's based on like the cultivation of Madra, which is like an aspect of something. So you could have like sword Madra or fire Madra or something like that. And it's done really well, and I really think it's quite unique. And it's also getting an animated adaptation, which is very, very exciting. So definitely not one to miss. At number 7, we have the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. We got The Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fears. And I know what you might be thinking, Ryan, where's the third book? It's been like 13, 15 years, something crazy like that. And I completely get that. I actually don't recommend this very often, just because the series may never be finished. This series follows Kvothe, how he is telling his story of how he became the man that he is. And the prose is beautiful. It's a very, very well thought out story. The magic system is really unique. But yeah, the main reason I wouldn't recommend this is just because it may never be complete, and I know how some people hate having incomplete series. At number 6, we have Red Rising. It is a sci-fi that reads kind of like a fantasy, where it's set in a world where we have a very class-based system. We have golds at the very top and reds at the very bottom. And our story follows our main protagonist, Darrow, who is a red who has to then infiltrate gold society. The first book, this one, reads very much like the Hunger Games set in space, and then from there it becomes this huge, massive space opera with these incredible battles and some incredible emotional scenes and some very, very interesting characters. It's one that had me absolutely hooked, and when I read it, I binged the entire thing very, very quickly. It's such a good series, and I'm incredibly excited because the final book is meant to be releasing this year. At number 5, we have the Hierarchy series. So this is the Will of the Many and the Strength of the Few. These books follow Viz and his journey. The magic system is based around will. The people at the bottom cede their mental, emotional, and physical energy to people above them. So you literally are like half a person. So the people at the bottom are literally half a person, and then as you progress up these pyramids, people just get progressively stronger, with the people at the top receiving will from like 50,000 plus people, so they are ridiculously strong. Will can also be used to power all kinds of like crazy devices, flying machines, all sorts of stuff, and it's really well done. The main draw of this series, though, I think is the mystery. His Lecanius trilogy was just really, really well done. So it's just setting up everything through book 1, book 2, and the final payoff in book 3 was fantastic, and that is fully what I'm expecting here in the Hierarchy series. Both of these books are just setting things up, and I believe it's going to be a 4-book series, and I'm very excited to see where he's going with this. At number 4, we have Mistborn Era 1. Now this is where I recommend almost everybody start their Brandon Sanderson journey. Allomancy, ferrochemy, and hemalurgy, some of the magic systems that are explored throughout this series, are so well done and so unique that they just leave you wanting more. Allomancy, you literally ingest metals to receive different powers. For instance, if you ingested tin, your senses are heightened. Or if you ingested puta, you are much stronger and faster. The story starts as a heist with a group trying to take out the Lord Ruler, but it progresses into something so much more than that, and by book 3, this is of epic proportions and like planet-wide scale, and it's just fantastic. Vin is one of the most badass FMCs I have read in a fantasy book. Sanderson is known for his endings, and the ending of Mistborn Era 1 is up there with one of the best fantasy endings of all time. If you haven't read Mistborn, or the Cosmere in general, you're missing out. The Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time is a 14-book long epic fantasy series that has influenced so many modern-day writers. The Dark One is breaking free from his prison, and the Dragon Reborn, the one who was prophesied to either break or save the world, has been reborn. The series follows Randall Thor and his friends as they progress through this 14-book long epic fantasy series. What makes the Wheel of Time special is its characters and the scale at which it is done. The world feels real and lived in, and the politics and everything in it is just special. Every nation has its own culture and politics, and the way that they are all interwoven is frankly just masterful. This was also what introduced me to Brandon Sanderson's writing, because he finished the last 3 books of the series and did a fantastic job of it, in my opinion. Now, some potential caveats. Some people say that there is a slump in the middle of this. I think it's like books 7 to 10. I didn't notice this at all. The Wheel of Time remains one of my favourite fantasy series of all time, and I enjoyed all of the books. But there are a ton of people online who say that the slog is a thing. I'm not one of them, so it's definitely one that I recommend. Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is the only physical book I own, by the way, because this is one series that you need to do on Audible, because frankly, Jeff Hayes is a flippin' wizard. So the premise is aliens show up, they destroy the surface of the world, and Carl and Princess Donut go into the dungeon, which is an 18-level dungeon that is a televised event for all of the galaxy to see. The series starts off as just a very dark, humorous thing. As the series progresses, it turns from a fairly dark, humorous story into this incredibly deep one. It turns into a story about oppression, corporate exploitation, and what it means to resist a system that is just trying to break you. The aliens treat humanity like disposable entertainment, and the main thing of this story is just seeing Carl and Donut resist this and fight back against it. If you've been putting off Dungeon Crawler Carl because you thought it was just this silly, light-hearted thing, definitely check it out because it becomes so much more, and it's so worth it. And then the Stormlight Archive, my favourite fantasy series to date. This series takes place on Roshar, which is this incredibly magical place. There are ridiculous high storms that just destroy everything. Everything is just rocks. Plants retract in on themselves. There are spren, these magical things that just exist around that react to people's emotions. It is really the definition of good world building, because some of these things are just so incredibly unique and well thought out. But what makes Stormlight special, however, isn't just the epic fantasy side of things. He writes his characters incredibly well. 3 of the main characters that we follow in the series. Kaladin, a man who is deeply depressed but who is constantly fighting through it. Shallan, who is trying to be a scholar but has a deeply disturbed past. And then Dalinar, the warlord who is trying to be a better man. Sanderson is known for his endings. The ending of the book is known as the Sanderlaunch, and in Stormlight, this is really where you see these. Some of these books are huge. For instance, the UK paperback versions are split up into 2 parts, just because of how big these things are. But the payoff, in my opinion, is so unbelievably worth it for all of them. And then you may have heard a lot of people online saying that Wind and Truth wasn't that good of a book. Frankly, I disagree. This was incredible. It might have been one of the weakest Stormlight books, but being a weak Stormlight book still puts it miles ahead of other books, in my opinion. So it's honestly, you need to check it out if you haven't already. But check out my reading order video if you want to see the best way to get into the Cosmere. So that is my top 10. Do you agree or do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and happy reading.